Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a mini podcast. This is going to be a bit weird because it's me basically talking about an old TV show that was really weird, and I'm pulling most of this out of my memory from about 14 years ago, so it's going to be a bit, what the heck am I exactly talking about, but bear with me. So this was a thing from my childhood called Dangerville. It was 14 years ago. I was 8 years old. I used to watch this over a period of 10 weeks. It was a show basically where they tried to convince children that another group of children were living in this street where strange and weird things would happen. Like, I remember the first week was a lion got loose in the street and they had to find a way to fix this lion and get it away. And it was weird because they would try to play it straight, like this was actually something real that was happening, but it was fake. It was probably one of the earlier instances of reality TV I've seen, but they also mixed it with elements of game shows. Like, these kids, if they could successfully solve this problem, would gain £1,000, which is about the equivalent of, let's say, $1,200 for Americans and all that stuff, and probably a gazillion yen. I don't know. But this show would have every week, these kids would have a weird problem. So I'm going to see if I can get to the full episode list here. I might have to go in through the full cast bit. But I'm going to go through what I remember each of the plots being, and you'll see it kind of went a bit off the rails. Hang on, I can't seem to find it. Full plot, episodes. Episode guide, here we go. Right. So the episodes had weird puns for their name, like the main event. This was one where a lion gets loose in the street, and pretty much they fix it with something by the doofus mayor and leading it away with a weird setup, but from a milkman, I remember. Again, I really can't pull enough out of this to give you the full plot, but I wanted to share how bonks I remember this from. Right, now the second episode was Who Ate All the Pies? Yeah, this was a story about pretty much somebody poisoned a load of pies for a church bake sale, and they had to try and figure out who exactly had poisoned the pies. And it was always the mayor. The mayor was always the bad guy. And it was this really weird guy who they pulled him off as some sort of like a circus master at some point, but then he started being all snooty and evil, right? But then things start to get weird. This bad manners one, sorry, I can't really give this one a proper plot. All I remember is it suddenly went into ghosts, and and as a kid I'd be like, oh, okay, but it suddenly went into a plot about ghosts and stopping ghosts from haunting a manor. And then you got to realise that this was trying to be reality TV. In 2015, they were trying to convince kids that this was really happening for a game show. And I remember they had these little segments where these contestants, in quotations, could go to a little phone booth. They would go to this phone booth and they would be able to talk to, say, the commentators or the people running the game show, and they would give them clues. Or they could pretty much say they wanted out of the competition and they wouldn't get their prize money, but they wouldn't, in quotations, get stressed out or die. Because this was a thing. This show actually promoted the idea that these kids could die. Now, oh god, the fourth episode. I remember this one probably more than all of the others. And, well, it's weird because, remember, these are supposed to be kids, right? But, again, some of them could have been actors, because I looked on the cast list and there was 18-year-olds, but the main girl, who was sort of like the heroic figure, was 13, while they had 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds jotted around the race. The actual contestant kids on the show were from a junior drama show, I believe. Anyway, so this episode, it starts off with an intense amount of focus on how bad this new cola is that they've gotten from an off license. And I'm just like, huh? Why is this getting focused? Obviously, this must mean something, right? And lo and behold, they go to the commentators who have started talking about how the contestants are about to undertake some weird, really bad form of test. And they start to show they're turning sprinklers on around this street. And it goes all Little Shop of Horrors. And I'm not even kidding. Roots start kidnapping these poor acting people who are populating the street, who aren't the contestants, and these giant plant roots start kidnapping people. And it goes along the episode, and the kids eventually realise that they're going to need to pour this cheap cola over the core of the plants to kill it, to stop these plants from taking over the planet. And I was like, what the fuck is this? As a kid, I was thinking, oh, okay, what the heck? I didn't know how to swear back then. But, yeah. Plants were taking over the world. That was it. And this whole point is that they need to pour this cola over the plant to kill it to gain the £1,000 prize that they're going to share between them at the end of the series. But they decide to use one of those building things where they use it to shovel, where they just piled a ton of coke into this building contraption with the giant shovel on the front. And they start going full League of Legends. They all start yelling at each other, getting frustrated. And the one who's piloting this building contraption has enough and decides they're going, instead of pouring it on the plant, pour it over their teammates because they're being wankers. And they fail, and they supposedly don't get the £1,000 for that challenge because they failed to kill the plants because the others are having a dibby fit. I'm just like, oh, I guess the reality's broken then. Because if this is supposedly real as they're trying to make it look like it, then they just doomed the planet over people yelling at each other that they're doing things wrong. Okay, now this is where it starts going into batshit insane territory. We then get this episode where they're apparently flung into the future, where the crazy mayor from earlier has turned into a robotic overlord and is trying to kill them with his crazy little robotic guys. And that's all because, yet again, earlier in the episode, there was a little segment in an electronics store about overloading light bulbs. So they get the idea to use the same idea on the robotic overlord dude, and it works, and then suddenly they're back in the past. I don't even know about that one. Okay, so after this, things really don't... I can't remember a lot at all. I mean, this episode, no idea. I'm pretty sure there was an episode where the kids were effectively being sued or witch hunted for some weird thing that was happening in this street, and they were sent to court, and the whole idea of this game show segment there was to prove themselves innocent, and yet again the mayor was the actual evil person. Nappy Ever After, don't know what that is. Okay, tacky races. What do I say about this? So, remember how I was saying that this show was supposedly a reality show? Well, they had this whole segment where they apparently put a load of devices on the kids while they slept, and they had an entire animated episode. It was a cartoon, where apparently these kids, in quotations, were sucked into the cartoon and had to find a way to defeat the evil mayor, who was now Dick Dastardly from the Wacky Races cartoon, in a sort of homage, shall we say, to that show. That show, which was basically just a comedy cartoon about races. And then you gotta, and then I remember as a kid I was thinking, oh god, they can't possibly go any more weird than this. Because as a kid, I was kind of sucked into the narrative, and I was ignorant. I still believed in Santa at this point, and wondered, well, hold on, that can't possibly be real. Cut to next week. There's a nuclear bomb in the streets, and you have to stop it. This was apparently the next thing that they decided that these kids should quote-unquote realistically deal with, but really it was really bad, and anyone who wasn't a kid would probably have realised how fake the show was at this point. But hey, 8-year-olds need to be introduced to nuclear arms at such a young age, right? They need to feel like their characters could be blown up in a puff of smoke like it's the frigging Cold War. I don't know why it's called Nan's on the Run, but yeah, that was the last episode of this series, and it's weird because this was reality television. Far before the whole boom of stuff like Big Brother, X Factor, American Idol, Do You Think You Could Dance, Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, all that jazz. And I tried looking for this show just to try and watch another episode, and I can't find anything save for a 20-second clip of it on YouTube. And it was from the animated episode I was talking about. And the girl who was playing the 13-year-old, I'm not even sure if they got the money for that. Maybe that was their acting fee. But it was one of those things that you can't tell where the fake began and the real stopped. I mean, being that all of the kids were from a junior dramatic society, I've got to say, it's probably all fake. But I just couldn't find anything. I couldn't find any footage. Nothing. So I felt, because IMDb has nothing on it either, I should share my experience of a bonkers TV show as a kid. And I did like it. I remember this show. As fake as it was funny. It was good for how bad it was. And I honestly wanted to watch it just to see if it held up as, like, a bad example of reality TV from 2003. But I can't actually find it. So, I don't know, if anyone has any information or any idea where I could watch this show again, I would appreciate it, but... Jeez. This was just generally me sharing something from my past. And I hope you guys can know that something like this existed 14 years ago. And now we have other things that seem to be even faker than what this once was. But yeah, if you can find anything about this, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, this has been a short podcast from me. I don't have any sponsors, so you won't have any of that jazz. If you want to try and ask me any questions about this, from what I can try and remember, then I'll be happy to answer you. But it was like... Seriously, this guy who played the mayor, who they called him Mayor Crunkhorn, I mean, he acted like Tim Curry if Tim Curry couldn't act. That's what I remember as well. Anyway, I'm garbling on too much. If you enjoyed listening to this, thanks for listening, and I will might do some of this again if I can find something else that I remember from my past. Okay, bye bye.